even more Pacific Northwest Pokemon, which I'm calling Lockemon. Man, I have got to come up with a different title. Well, in the past Kaskade region Lockemon videos, we sorta had themes, like Oregon, Washington. We're working on a Idaho-specific one right now, too. But today, I guess it's just the ones we missed in those last few. Some of them I've teased in other videos, and others are new to YouTube. So let's go over more of my ideas for Lockemon in the Kaskade region. Hey, in case you missed it, we recently opened up pre-orders to our very own Lockemon plushie. It's TOFRUG! A soft yet durable plush of a block of tofu with a leaf on it pretending to be a frog. I have this prototype here and it's already so lovely, especially considering how much work it took to get the proportions and the details right. We plan to launch later in summer, but to make sure you get one, and help us know how many to get made, you can pre-order yours at Gnoggin.net or with the link in the description. And thank you so much. So, I wanted something unique here to fill the Chansey Audino role, the main partnermon of all the Nurse Joys in the region. So I was doing my research, and did you know that the modern defibrillator was invented in Washington? Similar devices have existed for a century, but a Seattle physician perfected it. It was called, quote, perhaps the most dramatic medical innovation to emerge from the Northwest. It's the device used to stabilize or jumpstart a heartbeat with the use of an electric shock. So perfect, an electric-type healer. Here's Faebrill, whose name comes from fairy, defibrillator, and together sounds a bit like fable. It's an electric fairy type that combines a nurse and a defibrillator and a fairy fly, hence the fairy type. Why a fairy fly? Well, because it has the smallest heart in the animal kingdom. They're so tiny and dainty, and also look, its wings. They're just perfect for a defibrillator, right? No? It's just me? Okay. Well, it sends electricity through its wings to zap its opponents and heal its allies. It's mainly a healer and a buffer, and its antennae are a heartbeat line. Nice. The legs even sort of reference a stinger. Now, tardigrades. They live all over the world, but they are most commonly found in moist areas, especially moist moss. And guess what the Pacific Northwest has a load of? Moist moss. But considering the microscopic lifestyle of these creatures, I wasn't sure how to bring it about as its own thing, so I went ahead and commissioned a regional Reuniclus. The Reuniclus line is a reference to other microscopic cells anyway, after all. This Reuniclus is smaller than the Unnovan version, and it's also gained extra limbs and a more bear-like shaped head, referencing the other name tardigrades go by, water bear. In fact, that's also its type now, water psychic. Its body is much more viscous, and it dries out easily, so you can only really find them out and about in the forests when it's raining or misty. Another moisture-loving regional variant we've got in Kaskade is the Kaskadian Phantump and Trevenant. They come to exist the same way Phantumps do in the rest of the world, but when in the swamps of the Cascades, their dead wood is overtaken with fungi. In the case of Phantump, it's mainly the local non-delicacy, the bleeding tooth fungus. It makes it look like an acne-ridden teen. Gosh, I'm glad I'm past those days. The deadly poisonous nature of the fungi has integrated with its own body, making it ghost poison type now, and eventually it evolves into Kaskadian Trevenant. Now, a dead log taken over by even more decay as moss and the Conocyte filaris have taken over its very mind as well. These mushrooms are not only incredibly common up here in the Northwest, but they're also psychedelic. Until they kill you. Then they are just deadly. But for the moment before you die, you start seeing all kinds of things and become very delirious. The only thing scarier than an aggressively territorial Trevenant is one that also can't tell the difference between friend or foe or left from right. It's just chaos. Hence the swirly eye. So clearly it takes a very experienced trainer to properly train one of these. Now, in the non-swampy forests of the Kaskade region, we can find Chewmunk in abundance! It's probably the most common Lockemon here, like the Rattata Pidgey equivalent. And being so extremely common, there's like nothing special about it. It's a normal type chipmunk. It has big cheeks that it stores nuts and berries in. It has big and extremely powerful teeth. Don't get bit. So yeah, it's a chipmunk that chews. Chewmunk. The coolest thing about it is that the two big legendaries, Arctoyield and Minadza, each blessed a Chewmunk into becoming their sidekicks, thus becoming Tomunk and Timunk. So there's that. Good job. The best thing about you is that some of you changed. But also, while very rare in the wild, some Chewmunk will actually evolve into a Cheekat via friendship with a trainer. It's based on the ring-tailed cat, which is actually more of a squirrel raccoon. They live all over the US, but that includes Southern Oregon, so it's fine. It's believed that the connection with the trainer is what makes it evolve into a slightly more familiar shape for humans, as even most non-trainers will still have a cat Pokemon living with them. And being capable of such a dramatic biological shift is also likely why Arctoyield and Minadza chose a Chewmunk to bless and change. Cheekat still stuffs its cheeks, and it still has crazy strong teeth, but now it can use its extra long and extra soft tail as a way to distract its opponents. Its fur pattern, in general, is supposed to be puzzling for attackers to look at, much like real ring-tailed cats' tails. Another mon with a confusing fluffy pattern is Kaskadian Dubwool. So a Portland icon is this guy, Brian Kidd, also known as the Unipiper, most famous for playing a flaming bagpipe on a unicycle in front of the Keep Portland Weird mural, which is another iconic Portland thing. It's even the city motto, so I have to reference this somehow. And how perfect is a fire normal type Dubwool? First of all, the dude's name is Brian Kidd. A kid is a baby goat, which I know isn't a sheep, but it's close enough. People usually call bighorn sheep mountain goats, not knowing the difference anyway. Also, traditionally, bagpipes are made out of sheep's skin. And also, bighorn sheep, when fighting each other, will raise their heads up as high as they can, which generally means balancing up on a single point before ramming their head down. Almost like a unicycle. And rather than a soccer ball pattern, Kaskadian Dubwool has a sort of plaid pattern, the iconic red and green, referencing kilts, because again, Scotland and bagpipes. And it has to shoot flames out of its long pipe-like horns, because just breathing fire would put the flames too close to its wool, and it doesn't want to singe its beautiful wool, gotta keep it clean. It's so silly, I love it. Another silly and simple idea is Bagoul. You know how plastic bags are terrible for the environment because of litter? Well, instead of trapping an animal, this one caught a soul and has become a ghoul in a bag. A Bagoul. It's one of those generic thank you bags with a smiley face on it. The thank you here is written in Unnovan, and now it glows eerily like magic runes sealing a soul onto an object. Better watch out. This ghost type is known to pick up smaller Pokemon as its prey and trap them in its body. It's so silly, and also a little messed up. What's also kinda silly, but even more messed up, is Folleming, a sort of pseudo-second Pika clone. It's another electric rodent, but its name isn't in Japanese, so I can't say it's a real Pikachu clone. Folleming is an electric psychic type whose name pulls from lemming and the phrase, "follow me." And its beard makes a little lightning bolt, and the tufts of fur on the back ones look like antennas. It's able to learn Oranguru's signature move, Instruct, and it's also all about moves like After You and Follow Me and Helping Hand. Its signature ability, Enjoin, amplifies the effects of such moves, you see. Creeping lemmings do live here, of course, and also that's a great name for a lemming to base this on because this concept is kinda creepy. There is, of course, the famous myth that lemmings follow each other blindly, sometimes even over cliffs or across deadly rivers, and we're taking that a bit literally. The leader Folleming, known as the Guru, literally mind controls the lesser Folleming. They are inspired by the Oregon-based cult Rajneeshpuram, founded by this dude, Rajneesh, who wound up committing the biggest act of bioterrorism in the United States. Lovely. It was a crazy sex cult, with him as the guru. And this is fitting of lemmings because they repopulate like crazy. This is probably too dark a thing to reference for Pokemon, and that's why it's a Lockemon. Speaking of dark, how about a dark type? It's Rabyoose, a rabble-rouser Canada goose, especially if said goose looked the way it acted. For this design, we also looked at a sort of proto-goose, the Halscaraptor esquile, aka the murder swan, or what every Canada goose wants to be. Like the real geese, Rabyoose are extremely aggressive and territorial to those outside of their immediate group, always angry and willing to strike with its razor-sharp beak. It's so mean and abusive, hence the name. It rabbles with a few of its own kind, is a raptor goose, and gives all sorts of abuse. Rabyoose. Mean. And their base form isn't much nicer. This is Gneckle, which comes from gooseneck barnacle, heckle, and it's a diminutive. So Rabyoose lay their eggs against rocks by the ocean. They stick them there with a mix of down and goo. When the egg eventually hatches, the baby will stay in it, poking its head out now and again, until it's ready to evolve. And also, they hate being disturbed. They're so cranky, they hate everything, hence them still being dark type. So yes, I made the baby of a Goose Barnacle. A very, very upset Goose Barnacle. The first to hatch in the group will sometimes try to knock its neighbors off the rock so there's less competition for food, a tactic a few other baby birds use. So mean. But yeah, Goose Barnacle egg into a Proto-Canada Goose. I had to have a dark type goose, you know, but I didn't want just a goose. You know? Oh, and despite being dark flying, they learn plenty of water type moves. Just like Clamtrip and Jemineye. Both unrelated, but you can find them in the same area. Jemineye looks exactly the same from the front and the back. You can't tell which side is its face and which side is its butt. It's a reference to the Gemini constellation, and also to the fact that the creature it's based on, the chitin, has eyes all around its body. It's basically aware of its entire surroundings always. Hence, Jemineye being rock psychic type. The rock then, of course, being for its rocky shell. In fact, chitins are unique in that their eyes are gems. No, really. Like, it's crazy. Their eyes are, like, made out of a non-organic compound. It's like glass and crystals. It's crazy, and we touched on it in this video here if you want to learn more about all that. But that's also where its name comes from. It literally has gems in its eyes. Gem in eye. Jemineye. Oh dear God. Puns. Also, fun fact, Bejeweled was made in Seattle. Nice. Then, the rock-water Clamtrip. Did you know that sometimes baby crabs will find themselves inside of clams and mussels? They will grow up inside there and eat it. Sometimes, people will even find young crabs inside the oysters they're eating. Also, clams and oysters typically don't have just one pearl, like media likes to portray them a lot. They can have dozens. Also, robber crabs are known to steal shiny things that they like silverware. Combining all this, we get Clamtrip, a crab that pretends to be a clam and loves agates and pearls so much that it always has more than it can reasonably hold with it. So whenever it comes out of a Pokeball and lands on the ground, they spill and drop everywhere with its signature ability, Pearl Drop, which creates a field effect on its side of the battlefield around it, which reduces the accuracy of all physical attacks made against it by 10 or 20%. I'm not sure what would be considered balanced here. I'm not into the competitive side, but that's the idea. It's like that cartoon tripping on marbles thing. Then its name, clearly, is Clam and Trip, because it makes you trip on the marbles. But also, the definition of a cantrip is a simple trick or ruse, like the crab pretending to be a clam. I'm way proud of this name, actually. And I think at this point there's maybe only 2 or 3 more videos where we just go over Lockemon in the Kaskade region. Then I still gotta write out the whole plot, I have all the details figured out, and then I really gotta figure out what the weather mechanic is going to actually work as. Like, I know it's gonna be mainly just new moves, like there's a bunch of weather moves, but like, the specifics are hard because, you know, I'm not into the competitive scene, so I don't want to make something totally unbalanced. And then, after that, well, I've had loads of people approach and ask if they could make a ROM hack of this, and I am way down for that once the groundwork of the plot and figuring out everything and where things are going to be is done. So that may be a thing. No promises, but maybe. We will for sure use the profits made from the TOFRUG plush sales to fund some of that, maybe. Speaking of, huge thanks to everyone who has pre-ordered one already. The sales already blew my expectations away. It's probably just because I'm an anxious mess, but I figured everyone would hate it and that it would flop. But clearly it didn't, and that makes me so happy. Like I said at the beginning, you can pre-order yours at Gnoggin.net. Link in the description. All of the funds help us do what we do. So until next time, never stop using your noggin, and check out the rest of our videos if you missed them.